Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm the Game Master. I cover everything Pathfinder 2nd Edition, including in-depth adventure path reviews, advice for players, and tips on how to hit the elite template on your GMing. I'm also a full-time professional Game Master, so if you'd like to play a game with me, check me out on startplaying.com, links below. Today we're continuing our ultra in-depth look at the Abomination Vaults, breaking down this adventure path room by room, level by level, monster by monster, and giving you all the tips you need to take this adventure path to the next level. I've successfully run this campaign twice, and I'm here to let you know what's good, what's meh, and what mistakes I made so that you can avoid them, so that you and your players can have a great time playing this awesome adventure. Now it's time to delve into the dungeon, or at least the ground above it. The first level of the Abomination Vaults is on the surface, at the base of the Gauntlight, the strangely inland lighthouse, located a brisk 20-minute walk northwest of downtown Otari. After getting the cardio in for the day, you'll arrive at the ruins of the Gauntlight. The lighthouse was destroyed during a battle between the Rose Guard, the adventuring group from 500 years ago, and Belcora, the evil ghost witch who started all these shenanigans. The campaign starts here at the entrance. The Midflits are hiding up above and try to swindle your PCs into, I believe it is like, eat something ridiculous. They should be played as bumbling buffoons, as the book implies. This game has plenty of pretty grim moments, so play up your comedy now while you've got the chance. Their vengeful anger ability should make for some ridiculous smack talk, and then it should be followed quickly by some pathetic cringing from the self-loathing ability. They're a fun bunch to roleplay, and make sure to give their bug companions, like some of the maggots in Area A4, pet names and have them be devastated when the PCs dispatch their beloved pets. The drawbridge is likely to be your player's first encounter with a trap. While it's not a trap in game terms, this should be a heads up that they need to keep their eyes open. If your party doesn't have someone who is adept at locking at lockpicks or hazards, they better have somebody with a real high perception bonus or they're going to be in trouble real quick. The book says that if multiple medium-sized creatures try to pass over the bridge at the same time, that it will collapse. But if you want to change things up a little bit, you could utilize the slurk to your advantage. Looking here, the slurk that lives in the water next to or underneath the bridge has this fun ability called belly grease. Now, you could say that he was, before the PCs got there, he was up on the bridge, squirting his grease, like you do. And that would force them to, I believe it is, turns it into uneven ground, which would force a balance check, which is an acrobatics, which might cause them to slip and fall. It says it lasts for 10 minutes, but you're the GM, it lasts as long as you say it does. It's a quick way to change things up. I would be kind of careful with these sorts of changes, as this is an already pretty deadly adventure path, and you don't really need to make anything harder, but it's just an idea. Past the bridge, you're going to come into the training hall, and might be their first spicy encounter. When the melee types get into the maggot grabbing range, the gnaw flesh ability can do a fair bit of damage to a level 1 character, and if the dice are feeling hateful, as they often are. The other thing here to take notice is they might discover a teleportation circle here. And soon, this one isn't active, but soon the PCs will discover a ritual that to awaken these teleportation circles. The DC for the ritual is set by it's the same as like the DC by spell level, using the level of the dungeon as the spell level. You can find those DCs on page 53 of your GM core. I would have those written down somewhere handy so that you're not scrambling to find them in the middle of a session. The maggot stable has a couple more of these delightful maggots hidden inside of a giant frog corpse, as you can see here. Again, the Abomination Vaults has many of these very small rooms, and these can make encounters to be a little bit more difficult than the map may necessarily tell you, especially if some PCs are still stuck on the outside. This room isn't the worst, but when you get down below and it starts to be all 5-foot hallways all the time, things can get rough. The fly pen, just southwest of that, is going to be their first encounter with flying enemies. Now, flying enemies are going to be possibly tough for first level adventurers to deal with, especially if the melee types haven't grabbed something like javelins. So they're going to be leaning on any rangers, spellcasters to bring them down to size as quickly as possible. The flies aren't too bad. I haven't had too much trouble with them, but it is a very early encounter to be featuring flying enemies, so just look out for that. Something to look out for here is in area A7, the dining hall. If your players are new, this may be the first time that they've ever encountered a haunt. One thing I personally have trouble with is conveying to the party that something is a haunt or a hazard. Sometimes, especially when they're the more complex ones, instead of being a creature. Just some of how the descriptions read it can sound very much like a creature. This one, if you're using the official Foundry module, has a very awesome effects, has some awesome effects, as pictured there. So this should be a big clue to the party that this isn't just your average enemy. This is your average creature. Don't be afraid to give them a helping hand if they're not getting it. I have flat out just told my players more than once that, hey, this is a haunt or this is a hazard, just so they weren't stuck bashing their head against a wall. The sinkhole room encounter spilled over into the Mudlicker throne room. Both times I ran it. That's okay. Just play it by ear if you want to combine these encounters. If the PCs are doing okay, which is likely because they have the height advantage here, you can have some of the creatures from the throne room rush in and try and back up their companions. I wouldn't have everybody storm out. At least hold back with Bite and Boss Strong, and just send out the two Mitflits. Boss and Bitey are a modern encounter by themselves, so I would probably hold them back in reserve. If you decide not to, you can still have one of your PCs spot a Mitflit opening the door. This one here. To the throne room just to check on all the noise, and that should pique their interest and keep the pressure on until the fight is over. And then down south, here in the Mudlicker throne room is kind of, sort of, but not really the boss fight of this level. The fight should be exciting, but don't be afraid to have Boss Strong surrender, preferably by falling to his feet and blubbering for his life, especially when his beloved Bite dies. He can explain his dumb plan to invade Otari with the flies. I actually really like the vision of this. I had a small size PC, and he was in love with the idea of getting a riding fly. Never did it though. I kind of wish he did. That would have been cool. But keep him alive if you can, to offer some clues to the PCs. If you want to keep him alive, but you have a bloodthirsty group, make sure that he pulls out the map that he has, and most players will pull their swords in favor of some delicious loot. If they still seem hell-bent on killing him, maybe you can have him like wiping his tears and wiping his nose on the map, and everything's getting all like smeared, and probably that will stay their hand. If they do let him live, make sure that you have him in the future descriptions each time they return to the Gauntlight, like what's old Boss Strong up to, what other monsters is he kind of like hanging out with here. I wouldn't have him be any more of a threat, just have him be like a comedy side piece for the rest of your campaign. A11, the Gauntlight base, has an interesting trap, but neither one of my groups ever triggered it because it only activates at night, and somehow just going to the ruins of a haunted lighthouse that's over a cursed dungeon at nighttime just felt like a bad idea, you know? But if you have a particularly carefree group, they might catch their first glimpse of Belcora. This trap takes the form of Belcora, composed in blood, and this should cause some void damage, and this is going to be like really their first look. So go crazy with the description. Like they should know that this is some bad business and that Belcora is not messing around. In Belcora's office, area A12, there's some items that get picked up and a secret staircase that leads further down. You should definitely encourage your players to run downstairs as quickly as possible. No, don't do that. I mean, You can if one of your players has been chatting up your ex-girlfriend or something. I mean, I'm not here to tell you how to lead your life or how to take whatever petty, pathetic revenge you can while you watch your former love making out with Chad Beaverton, who is, of course, playing a fighter and has been looking up like optimal builds. You know, he's just going to be a hassle. And didn't you see him looking up monster stat blocks the other day? Yeah. Go downstairs, Chad. Do it. A14, the Scorpion Kennel, is a tough fight, which the book even warns you. The Scorpion doesn't treat the room as difficult terrain, and having a 10-foot reach with its tail, possibly inflicting a nasty poison, having reactive strikes, plus having grab on its pinchers is a potentially deadly combo for level 1 PCs. Feel free to have the Scorpion make some non-optimal moves just to give them a chance if they're really struggling. But don't worry, GMs. Your chance at your very first TPK is coming up soon. Nimbeloth Shrine is a real doozy. 2 corpse lights made for a real tough time for both of my groups, and in both times they were forced to retreat. They have physical damage equal to the Scorpion, a 20-foot cone attack that gives them temporary HP and can frighten your PCs, and you have a deadly combo, especially as they are likely to be roughed up from previous encounters. This encounter is made to tell them that sometimes you need to retreat and you need to do recall knowledge. Both times they retreated back to Atari and made use of the Dawnflower Library to assist them in figuring out how to not die. When they figured out the sunlight powerlessness, though, they came back during the day, broke all the windows, and utterly banged up the corpse light's business. The Ruined Pier on A17 gives you your first hint onto the optional side quest for Yin. She went by Yin in my game, in the form of a boat that was abandoned by some of her men. The men are in the next level below, so make sure that the party find out about this quest real early so that they know what they're looking for here. The first room your PCs are likely to encounter on Apprentice Island is area A19. You're given another opportunity to mess with your PCs with old Spooky Wisp, a fae who wandered in out of the swamp for, reasons. He's here to warn your characters about Mr. Beak, who was a source of much laughter and rejoicing, especially when this adventure path first came out before they reworked his stat block. Just kidding, as you may have heard, Mr. Beak was a straight-up murderer in his earlier incarnations, but they've changed his stat block around a little bit, took away his death effects. He's not so bad now. After passing another stairwell down, we quickly reached Mr. Beak. The first stat block for Mr. Beak had some really nasty death effects, but those have been removed. Still, though, he's quite a lot for a group of first-level adventurers. Don't forget that the ground in here is uneven ground, so make sure to brush up on everything that entails. This, combined with a flying speed, makes for a rough encounter. Make sure to target any ranged damage dealers with your casting of Phantom Pain, and swoop in and out with his melee attacks, using your actions wisely to stay out of range of any of those ground-dwelling melee fighter types. Last up is the Old Pier. This location has an enemy called a Flicker Wisp, and this would have seen some big changes if this was a post-OGL adventure. It has, like all wisps, it has magic immunity, which is honestly a pretty annoying thing to work with. Magic immunity works very different now, and I think that's for the best. If I'm being honest, I don't find wisps to be fun creatures to run, and I don't think they're fun creatures to fight. So if there's a lot of them in this adventure. If you agree with me about this, feel free to switch them out with a creature that you like better. For this one, the Bog Strider feels like a good fit with the environment. Lore-wise, wisps have a connection to Nimbeloth, so you can either just omit that or come up with a different creature to have that same link with Nimbeloth in your campaign, if you'd like to. That's it for the major encounters in the first level of the Abomination Vaults. I'll be back with another installment of this soon, plus the other videos that I already have planned. If you like what you saw, and you'd like to play a game with me, look me up on startplaying.com and see what I'm running these days. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and leave me a long and extremely detailed love letter in the comments. Nah, just kidding. Don't do that. My wife will get super jealous. But anyway, I'll see you next time. This has been the Game Master.